Has to get it in. Finds Stewart. Stewart for the tie. Misses the layup. And Minnesota with a miracle Game 1 win. 95-93.
What a game! The Minnesota Lynx overcame an 18-point deficit, the largest in WNBA Finals history, to defeat the New York Liberty in Game 1. A game where they had 19 fewer offensive possessions, the Lynx were somehow able to prevail in a classic overtime game, largely due to the incredible play of both Courtney Williams and Napheesa Collier. The Liberty started this game force-feeding Jonquel Jones early because she poses a serious size mismatch for the Lynx front court. We've talked about how the Lynx sacrifice size for more quickness and mobility, so the Liberty made a conscious effort to find JJ inside for easy layups. And the Lynx were switching on defense more than they've ever done this season, which means the pick and roll was contained, but it also made them more susceptible to offensive rebounds, a stat by which they lost 20-5. Here's another possession where the Lynx switching gets them in trouble. McBride ends up getting switched onto JJ, so Collier rotates over to take the matchup, but she's also too small for 35, and a pirouette of moves gets JJ another layup. However, the Lynx never really departed from this switching scheme, instead increasing the on-ball pressure as the game went on, and occasionally throwing late double teams at JJ to confuse the offense. Here's another play where Collier and McBride switched the Breanna Stewart action, and remember from my Lynx video where I talked about 3/4 high defense in the post? Well, McBride does it perfectly here, and when Stewie gets the ball, there's about 5 seconds left on the shot clock and a help defender in her face. The whole possession is a masterclass for Minnesota, and it leads to a shot clock violation. The Lynx were able to get back into it thanks to this improved defensive effort. Carlton stays in front of Breanna here, but also watch the textbook stunt and recover from Courtney Williams to force a difficult shot. Having someone like Courtney Williams who, on offense, can collapse defenses in pick and roll and find open shooters was a godsend. I've referred to Williams as the drop coverage killer because she has the best pull-up mid-range jumper in the league, which makes her a serious problem for bigs who play far off of ball screens. And on the defensive end, it was Collier's ridiculous versatility on display that mucked up New York's offense in the second half. She switches onto Breanna Ionescu here, and then back to Stewie and absolutely boxes her driving attempt, and then inhales her jump shot. According to ESPN's tracking, Collier held Stewie to 1 of 11 shooting, and watching this game, I don't think it's far-fetched to call this one of the best individual defensive games ever. In fact, I haven't quite seen a matchup where an MVP player downright dominated another MVP level player in a head-to-head like this, let alone on a stage as big as this one. Collier is guarding JJ this time, but she recognizes the flare screen and switches onto Stewie and again stays right in front of her on her drive and forces a one-legged miss. Her fourth quarter defensive performance is absolutely ridiculous when you consider the context, because most of these possessions are just Collier absolutely clamping Breanna Stewart in isolation without any help defense. Collier finished with 6 blocks and 3 steals in this game, but it was the countless deflections that don't appear in the box score that made the difference. Like this one, where she deflects the over-the-top pass to a streaking Leonie Fibic that probably saves a layup. The next possession down, she switches onto Breanna, and this aggressive ball pressure flusters Ionescu into a traveling violation. And what happens next is the stuff of legends because head coach Cheryl Reeve makes the gutsiest decision I've ever seen by running a 4-guard lineup with Collier at center against the same massive Liberty lineup that dominated them in the paint in the first half. This move did make it easier for Courtney Williams to matchup hunt. She goes at Jonquel Jones here and is able to collapse the defense, which leads to an open Heidemann triple. On their next defensive possession, we see just how small the Lynx are, and with all that switching, we once again see some easy paint points for JJ as the lead balloons up to 11, but those would be the last points the Liberty would score in regulation because the Lynx would get absolutely any shot they wanted on the offensive end, going at Vandersloot here, and Heidemann finds Collier for an open 7-footer. The next offensive possession down, it's the mid-range assassin Courtney Williams, who drains a huge mid-range pull-up after neither Phoebich or Stewie commit to her on this screen. The Liberty offense would end up faltering down the stretch, largely in part to their conservatism. Watch how long it takes them to get into their set on this play. The lackadaisical side-to-side movement doesn't force the Lynx defense to collapse, and the possession leads to a shot clock violation. With the lead cut down to 5, Collier would switch onto Ionescu again here, which leaves JJ on McBride again, but notice how Kayla fronts the post, making this entry pass to JJ more difficult with Courtney Williams standing in the paint. The possession again falters for New York. This 4-guard lineup with Collier at center played the majority of the final 4 minutes of the game and outscored the Liberty's big lineup 12-2, largely in part to these huge defensive stops. Collier had no business being effective at center for this long, but it also goes to show how much trust Cheryl Reeve has in her Defensive Player of the Year to make plays like this one, blocking Jonquel Jones' shot with her hands basically locked behind her head.
Stop it! That's one of the hey, the guys are stop it.
With Elena Smith back in the game for size, it was Collier again with another phenomenal defensive stand against Stewie, forcing a shot clock violation and giving Minnesota the last possession of regulation down by only 3. And for Minnesota's last offensive sequence of the fourth, we get a classic Brad Stevens victory play where Williams sets a flare screen for a 3-point opportunity for McBride near the weak side wing. But the Liberty are on top of it because they switch this action, but that only comes back to bite them in the end because when the first shot goes up, Elena Smith is able to grab the offensive rebound over Vandersloot instead of Phoebich, so the Lynx end up getting another crack at it and, well...
Another chance for Minnesota. Williams connects! Plus the foul! A chance for 4 and a play that may live forever in WNBA history.
You know what happened. Now, after Stewie was maybe fouled on that last second shot, she splits a pair of free throws and we went to overtime. And in overtime, it was again some phenomenal defensive versatility that stymied the Liberty's offensive approach. Here's another 3/4 high sequence from Elena Smith to deny the entry pass to JJ. This constant ball pressure made both Stewie and Sabrina extremely uncomfortable, and it certainly didn't help that the Liberty were taking 15 seconds to get into their actual set, and the play turns into yet another dud. On offense, it was Williams' pick and roll playmaking that led the way for the Lynx in the 5th period. She finished with only 5 assists, but she created countless more looks for her entire team that won't show up in the box score. With the Lynx up 2, we get this defensive mastery, a timely help rotation from the weak side corner from Bridget Carlton, and an even better deflection from Napheesa Collier that forces yet another turnover. The next possession down, Collier slides over to defend Sab as she turns the corner and deflects this kickout pass to Phoebich to force yet another turnover. And if you haven't lost track of the number of heroic defensive efforts, then keep watching, because on this play, Collier takes a bump from Stewie and forces her into yet another difficult one-legged jumper, this time off the wrong foot. With the Lynx clinging to a 1-point lead, Minnesota went back to pick and roll to find the matchup that they wanted. New York doubles Collier in the post, and the ball finds Courtney Williams yet again for her second huge 3 of the game. Williams was absolutely masterful, and she turned the corner multiple times, this time with a gorgeous hesitation move to give the Lynx a 4-point lead. The Liberty would claw their way back into it with a JJ steal and layup, which is only right given how wild this game was, but this would leave Minnesota with a chance to win the game. On this baseline out of bounds play, the Liberty switch Laney onto Fee, but JJ calls for a scram so she can take the matchup, and Collier, with the game on the line, makes a ridiculous fadeaway jumper to give Minnesota the Game 1 win. This series has absolutely lived up to the hype so far, and it will be interesting to see the adjustments both teams make. The Liberties certainly aren't out of it. I expect them to force feed Jones the ball even more in Game 2, but in this game, Collier was absolutely masterful, as was Courtney Williams, and if the Lynx do win this series, it'll be on the backs of those two, as the Lynx now take a 1-0 lead in what should be an all-time great finals matchup. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you've made it to the end, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you never miss a video. Also, make sure to go follow me on Twitter. It will be linked in the description box below, and that way you can interact with me about the game more directly, and also interact with me about the game live during wild overtime thrillers like this one. Also, if you're interested, make sure you go check out my previous series breakdowns on the Liberty Aces series and the Lynx Sun series. Those videos also discuss similar schematic principles like this one and will certainly not disappoint you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you after Game 2.